You'll be fine going to the hospital alone, right? I swear, I'll send you straight to hell. My name is Emily, and I'm currently 9 months pregnant. This is my first time having a baby, so while I'm filled with anxiety, I also feel truly blessed to be welcoming a new member into our family. My husband, Johnson, works an office job and has weekends off. However, he doesn't help much around the house or with shopping. This is because he usually goes back to his parents' home on weekends. Johnson has a very close relationship with his family, and since their home is nearby, he spends almost every weekend there without any particular reason. Since becoming pregnant, I've been very careful about lifting heavy objects. For example, when I need to buy heavy items like rice, understanding friends often help out. My daily routine starts with waking up early, preparing breakfast for Johnson, and seeing him off to work. Afterward, I do the cleaning and laundry, then head out for any necessary shopping. Once I return home, I start prepping for dinner. Only after finishing these tasks can I finally have some relaxation time. Since taking maternity leave, I've taken up a new hobby, blogging. Every day, I write a diary accompanied by photos I take, such as meals, the blue sky, flowers blooming in the garden, and more. Many friends and acquaintances leave comments, and these moments of journaling have become small daily joys for me. One evening, as I was preparing dinner, my husband returned home as usual. He carelessly placed his bag and jacket on the sofa, and I tidied them up, hanging them on a coat hanger. "Welcome back. I made hamburgers for dinner," I said. Responding curtly, he headed straight for the bathroom. 3 years have passed since we got married, and there has been little kindness or consideration from him. I occasionally wonder if this is truly what a marital relationship should be like, but I've resigned myself to it. When Johnson returned in his pajamas, I handed him a drink. "Where's the beer?" he asked, glancing at the bar. "I'm sorry, I forgot to buy it today. I'll get some tomorrow," I replied. "Seriously? Go to the convenience store now." His demeanor changed immediately, and he spoke with evident anger. I was irritated. Why was he asking his pregnant wife to do this? If you want it so badly, why don't you go get it yourself? It's hard for me to move around with this big belly. At that moment, he became even angrier and started shouting. "You're the one who forgot to buy it. It's your job to fix that mistake. Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you get special treatment." My mother always said it's important to keep moving for the sake of health. Knowing that he doesn't calm down easily when he's angry, I reluctantly decided to go to the convenience store. Once I arrived, I bumped into Sarah, a neighbor. "Oh, Sarah, good evening," I greeted her. "Good evening, Emily. Did you forget to buy something too?" she asked. "I ran out of sauce, so I came here," she explained. Sarah's cheerful voice slightly lifted my spirits. My husband really wanted beer, and he told me to buy it. "Why didn't he just go himself?" Sarah asked. "That's what I said, but it didn't get through to him." "It sounds like you're having a tough time, Emily," she sympathized. After walking together for a bit, Sarah and I parted ways at a crossroad. When I returned home, Johnson was lounging on the sofa, watching TV, having not even cleaned up after dinner. "Why did it take you so long? What were you dawdling around for? Give me the beer." Johnson's disgruntled voice and his insensitive remarks made my heart ache. However, I handed him the beer without a word and began cleaning up after the meal. How could he say such things to me, especially when I'm pregnant? I felt the urge to retort, but I didn't want another shouting match, so I remained silent. Afterward, I had my dinner, took a relaxing bath, and headed to the bedroom. The next morning, Johnson acted as if nothing had happened. It seems he's the type to forget everything after a good night's sleep. However, I couldn't forget his words from the previous night, and I consciously ignored him. "Why are you making that face so early in the morning? Don't take it out on me. I'm heading to work now, so be a bit considerate." You know the importance of appreciation, right? Due to what he said, I was filled with the urge to retort, "That applies to you, doesn't it?" But out of shock and disbelief, all I could do was sigh deeply and see him off. "Be careful, right? I want dinner tonight. See you." Without any explanation, Johnson left in a hurry. After seeing him off, I took care of household chores and went shopping as usual. However, since Johnson mentioned he wouldn't be having dinner, I decided to prepare something simple just for myself. Then, as I was about to start my meal alone in the evening, I heard Johnson's unexpected return and rushed to the entrance. "I'm back. Thanks for your hard work," he said. "But you said you didn't need dinner today, right?" "Yeah, but my drinking party got canceled. I'm hungry. You have something to eat, right?" "Well, I only prepared a meal for myself today," I replied. Upon hearing this, Johnson's face contorted with anger. "Didn't you even consider the possibility I might come back? This is unbelievable," he said as he moved to the dining table. Upon seeing the dinner I prepared, his mood worsened. "What do you call this, a meal?" "Seriously," he questioned. "If you're properly doing your duties as a housewife, don't waste the money I'm working for." I quickly prepared something for myself. "Please don't get mad like this. Maybe you should learn proper cooking from my mom." "Honestly, I've always found your cooking lacking," he criticized. Again, he always compares me to his mother. Doesn't he realize how hurtful these comparisons can be? "I can't eat this. Go buy something," he demanded. Hearing this, my heart sank further. What does he think of me? It's already night, and I've taken a bath. Can't you go buy it yourself? Forget it. You forgot to buy beer yesterday, didn't prepare dinner today. It's so frustrating. I'm going back to my parents' place. Johnson stormed out, leaving me alone in the house. Strangely, I felt a sense of relief. The next morning, as I expected, I received an angry call from Johnson's mother. "How can you not serve Johnson a proper meal? This feels like moral harassment, if not worse," she scolded. I explained what happened yesterday, but she wasn't accepting it. So, I apologized and ended the call. After the call, my mood plummeted. Since Johnson wasn't home, I decided to have a leisurely late brunch. However, the thought of Johnson coming back tonight weighed on my mind. Considering yesterday's events, I decided to make tonight's dinner special. I shopped with more care than usual, picking out ingredients and adding Johnson's favorite beer to the cart. I was determined to prepare a dinner that would earn Johnson's praise. I shortened my blog update time a bit to allocate more time to cooking. After dedicating ample time to preparations, the table was set beautifully, as if it was a special occasion. Looking at it, I felt a sense of accomplishment and couldn't help but praise myself. With this, he should definitely be satisfied, I thought. I waited patiently in the dining room for Johnson to come home, but as time passed, there was no sign of him. I tried contacting him several times via my smartphone, but there was no response. I became more worried as the clock continued to tick. 1 hour, then 2 hours passed, and I began to get anxious. Did he possibly go to his parents' house? Thinking this, I called Johnson's parents to check, but they said he hadn't come there either. I tried calling Johnson multiple times, but still, there was no response. As midnight approached, just when I was considering contacting the police, a staggering Johnson returned home. He seemed clearly drunk. "I'm home," he slurred. I rushed to the entrance in concern and found Johnson lying on the hallway floor. "What happened? Are you okay?" I asked anxiously. Hearing my voice, he responded angrily, "Too loud, go away." He then staggered towards the dining room. When I tried to support him, he forcefully shook off my hand. "Don't touch me. Don't come near me with that ugly face. To think you're my wife," he spat out in his drunken state, "then just lay down right there." Those words were beyond shocking. Why can't he consider others' feelings? His remarks hurt me deeply, and I was filled with thoughts of, maybe he no longer sees me as family. Tears welled up in my eyes. I put so much effort into cooking, it was all for nothing. The next morning, Johnson woke up as if nothing had happened. My head hurts. I guess I drank too much. But why did you leave me in the hallway? You chose to lie down there, Johnson. It's not my fault. Aren't you my wife? At least take care of me when I'm drunk, he complained. Johnson's words made me wonder why he always blames me right away. If you weren't going to eat at home, you could have at least let me know. I had prepared a nice meal, and I called you multiple times. Why didn't you answer? I questioned. Johnson replied bluntly, my drinking party from the day before got rescheduled to yesterday. Do I have to report everything? Besides, you know how hard it is to pick up the phone during a gathering. With every word Johnson said, my heart got colder and my expectations of him diminished. That way, I won't feel hurt or disappointed anymore. This thought lingered in my mind, that I'm taking a break and going back to my parents' home tomorrow. Being with you lately feels unpleasant and boring. Seeing Johnson's attitude of looking down on me made me increasingly consider the option of divorce. Our baby is due soon, and my heart races in anticipation. Even though I've heard stories about the pains of labor from friends, my excitement to meet the new life inside me overshadows those concerns. The neighbors often encourage me with words like, it's just a little while longer, which brightens my mood. Hey, want to go on a family trip soon? After Johnson returned home, he made a surprising suggestion. Really? I replied, surprised. But I'm talking about a family trip. My mom and dad want to join, he explained. I was taken aback. Why would your parents make such a proposal? Tensions exist between me and Johnson's parents. Whenever there's an issue concerning Johnson, they tend to blame me, like the previous phone call incident. However, the sudden idea of a trip left me doubtful. I'm about to give birth soon, and traveling a long distance might be a bit risky. I expressed my concern. How many times do I have to tell you? Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you're sick. My parents are thoughtfully inviting us, but what if something happens? Johnson replied dismissively. It'll be fine. Everything's already decided. We'll go for 2 nights and 3 days next week, he announced. Next week. That's a bit. I started, but Johnson cut me off. Just do as you're told. Prepare for the trip. End of discussion. Feeling troubled, I sought advice from a close friend the next day and explained the situation. That's a bit too much, she said concernedly. While I was contemplating how to decline the offer, the day of the trip suddenly arrived. Actually, I'm not feeling well today. I'm worried about the baby, so I'm going to rest at home. I tried to use that as an excuse, but Johnson didn't seem convinced. Anyway, you can just rest in the car and you'll be fine, right? Come on, bring a luggage. We're heading to my parents' house, so hurry up, he insisted. As we headed to the car, I was worried and asked, is this really okay? After loading our luggage into the car and sitting in the passenger seat, I felt warmth at my feet. Looking down, I noticed water spreading around my feet. Oh my water broke, I exclaimed. Immediately, I informed Johnson, I think my water just broke. Please take me to the hospital quickly. Taken aback by the situation, Johnson exclaimed, Are you serious? Yes, I'm serious. We need to go to the hospital now. The baby might be coming, I insisted. While trying to clean up the water with a towel in the car, Johnson suddenly opened the passenger door. Johnson, what are you doing? We need to go to the hospital, I protested. Get out. You're going to make a mess in the car, he demanded. In complete shock, I asked, What are you saying? Get out. I need to clean the car, Johnson insisted as he forcefully pulled me out of the car. In this unbelievable situation, Johnson said, I can't believe this. We were supposed to be on a family trip. Just go to the hospital by yourself. I was too shocked to say anything as I called out to Johnson. Wait, how can you leave me here like this? He drove away, leaving me behind. Feeling overwhelmed, I quickly dialed for an ambulance. When someone approached asking, "Emily, are you okay?" It was Sarah, looking concerned. Sarah immediately recognized my predicament and arranged for a special taxi, comforting me throughout. Grateful for her kindness, tears streamed down my face. Soon after, I safely arrived at the hospital thanks to Sarah's help. On the way, she held my hand and cheered me up, staying by my side until I was taken to my room. While being transferred, I made a silent vow. I will make him pay for this. Even as labor pains grew, Sarah kept holding my hand. Furthermore, she contacted my parents, who soon arrived at the hospital and looked deeply concerned. Sarah whispered to them, "There's something I want to discuss," then left the room. As the labor pains intensified, my smartphone vibrated from a corner of the room. "Who is it?" I asked, and my parents responded with Johnson's name. They looked displeased, but I took the call anyway. As soon as I answered, I heard a panicky Johnson help me. However, I was in no state or mood to converse with him and promptly ended the call. Despite my parents turning off my phone, Johnson continued to send messages. As labor intensified, I was finally moved to the delivery room. After enduring the pain for some time, I finally heard my baby's cries. Exhausted, I saw my parents and Sarah standing before me with warm smiles, relieved. I closed my eyes and rested. When I woke up after a few hours of sleep, I found myself lying in the hospital bed, rubbing my eyes. I noticed my parents sitting next to me, their faces filled with concern. "Are you okay?" my mother asked gently. Still feeling the weight of exhaustion, I couldn't muster the energy to sit up, while my father looked teary-eyed. My mother consoled him, saying, "The postpartum period can be exhausting." Witnessing this heartwarming scene, a smile formed on my face. "How's the baby?" I inquired. My parents informed me that the baby was undergoing some tests but would be back in the room soon. However, I noticed Sarah wasn't present. Responding to my unspoken question, my mother remarked, "Sarah left a little while ago." Thinking about how things might have turned out had Sarah not been there, a feeling of gratitude settled over me. I made a promise with my parents that after being discharged, I would visit Sarah to express my gratitude. Turning on my smartphone to inform my friends about the birth, I was met with an overwhelming number of missed calls, mostly from Johnson. The sheer number left me momentarily stunned, but I felt no hope or expectation from his calls, so I closed the notifications without hesitation. One of my friends visited the hospital room to congratulate me on the birth. As she rejoiced and extended her genuine wishes, I opened up about the recent incidents with Johnson. After hearing the story, she expressed both shock and anger, half-jokingly saying she'd like to punish him a bit. But she also emphasized that my health and rest were paramount. She chatted with me for a while and then left. My parents, already briefed by Sarah about the whole episode, asked what I was planning to do next. I shared my thoughts about my relationship with Johnson and told my parents I'm considering divorce. They respected my decision and provided their support. Upon my discharge, I planned to stay at my parents' house, where they had prepared a room for me. Meanwhile, Johnson seemed to have visited the hospital, but as I had informed the hospital staff that I didn't wish to see him, he wasn't allowed in. The next day, Sarah came to my hospital room holding a fruit basket. "Sarah, you came," I exclaimed with delight. "You seem to be recovering well, but remember not to overexert yourself. Postpartum fatigue can be quite profound," she advised. Feeling comforted by Sarah's words, I sighed with relief, taking the fruit basket from her. "Sarah, thank you so much for helping me. I don't know what would have happened if you weren't there." I expressed my deep gratitude as I bowed deeply. Sarah gently laughed, saying, What's most important is that both you and the baby are healthy. I just want to lend a small hand. Regardless, I'm forever grateful. Once things settle down, I'll come over to thank you properly." Sarah laughed warmly in response. "You know, I've talked to my husband about what happened. He seemed quite furious," Sarah disclosed. From her words, I could somewhat deduce Johnson's situation. "Sarah, I'm truly sorry for dragging you into this mess," I admitted. "Don't worry. Remember who you owe for being able to work at your current company. This incident is truly hard to forget." At that moment, I heard a stern tone in Sarah's voice for the first time. Sarah was actually the wife of the CEO at the company where my husband worked. When we first moved to this residential area, I had no idea about this fact. However, as we frequently encountered each other at the local supermarket shops and occasionally at convenience stores, we gradually became closer. We even began to enjoy tea together, and during these sessions, I learned about the nature of her husband's job. On the other hand, my husband was completely unaware of this background. This was because he didn't even accompany me for our initial neighborhood greetings and didn't prefer interacting with our neighbors. Sarah had previously told me gently, "I don't want to cause any trouble, so don't tell your husband," and I had respected that request. Knowing that I was pregnant and still being forced to endure my husband's unreasonable behavior, Sarah had several times suggested that I talk to my husband about this. However, I had always declined, not wanting to trouble her. But with this recent incident, perhaps even Sarah reached her limit. That's why my husband kept calling Sarah. "I really can't thank you enough for everything." Sarah's strong words made me realize how fortunate I was to have someone who'd go to such lengths for me. I couldn't help but tear up at her kindness. Despite the barrage of notifications online, I consciously ignored my husband's messages. Thinking about the divorce made my mind clear, and all I wanted was to focus on how to live my life with my baby. As I was preparing to leave the hospital, a close friend visited my room and handed me her smartphone, saying, "I want you to see this." Displayed on her phone was a post that had become a major topic on a certain social media platform. When I asked what it was about, she informed me that she had posted about my husband's recent actions on social media. My friend had a significant influence on social media with a massive follower count. One day, she received a reply to one of her posts. The follower who replied had, by chance, captured a video of the scene where I was yelled at by my husband after being forced out of the car. The follower, wanting to protect my privacy, blurred my face in the video and, with my friend's permission, shared it online. The video spread like wildfire, and as a result, personal details about my husband and even his company were identified. Currently, my husband seems to be under a barrage of criticism online. I had no idea it had escalated to this level. My friend, smiling gently, remarked, "Well, they brought it upon themselves, didn't they?" My husband's actions and their consequences were all a result of choices he made. Furthermore, when one of my husband's friends confronted him about the incident, he reportedly excused himself, saying, "I had a prior travel commitment with my parents that day, so I had no choice." Because of this statement, not only my husband but also his parents began to face criticism online. The story spread even in the vicinity of my in-laws' home, and there seemed to be various topics related to my husband's parents circulating on social media. Suddenly, my phone started ringing. When I checked the screen, it was a call from my mother-in-law. My friend, looking at the screen with interest, suggested, "Why don't you pick up and give her a piece of your mind?" However, I was so fed up that I felt no words to do so and decided to ignore it. Before I knew it, the missed calls log was filled with names of my husband, father-in-law, and mother-in-law. Ever since the incident was highlighted on social media, even the hospital staff seemed to be aware of my situation and started offering genuine support. Whether my husband or in-laws came to the hospital or called multiple times, the hospital staff didn't allow any contact with me. As my discharge date approached, I had one pressing worry: whether my husband and in-laws might be lurking outside the hospital. My parents reassured me, saying, "You have nothing to worry about," but the thought of my precious baby being in danger left me anxious. However, that concern was quickly dispelled on the day of my discharge. As my parents were helping me with my belongings, I heard my husband's voice shouting, "Emily," followed by the loud voices of my in-laws. Suddenly, men in black suits surrounded me, forming a protective barrier. As I tried to understand what was happening, one of the men approached me gently, opening the car door and said, "Don't worry. We're here on Sir's request to protect you." It seemed my parents were already aware of this, as my mom said, smiling, "Didn't I tell you there's nothing to worry about?" Believing her words, I felt relieved and smoothly got into the car. All the while, my husband and in-laws, overwhelmed by the presence of the bodyguards, couldn't come any closer. I can't find the words to express how grateful I am for Sarah supporting me like this. The only thing occupying my mind was how to reciprocate Sarah's kindness. My parents felt the same way, saying in unison, "We have to find a way to show our gratitude to Sarah." Although my new life began smoothly and pleasant days continued, the contacts from my husband and in-laws never ceased. I mailed them the divorce papers. With emotions, I calmly responded, "I appreciate your willingness to apologize, but there are deeper issues that need to be addressed. Simply saying sorry won't solve everything." My husband seemed taken aback by my composed demeanor, but he persisted, pleading for reconciliation. Under the guidance of the lawyer, I conveyed my stance firmly yet compassionately. "I understand your concerns, but there have been ongoing issues in our relationship that need to be resolved. We both need time to heal and reflect before considering any reconciliation," I explained. Despite my efforts to maintain a rational dialogue, my husband's tone grew increasingly desperate. "You're being unreasonable. This divorce will ruin my life," he exclaimed. However, I remained steadfast in my decision, emphasizing the importance of prioritizing our well-being and that of our child. As the conversation reached an impasse, the lawyer intervened, suggesting that further discussions be postponed until emotions had settled. Reluctantly, my husband agreed, and the call ended with a sense of unresolved tension lingering in the air. Reflecting on the conversation, I felt a mix of emotions: sadness for the breakdown of our marriage, but also relief at finally confronting the issues that had long been swept under the rug. With the support of my family and legal counsel, I felt empowered to navigate the complexities of divorce and pave a path toward a brighter future for myself and my child. In the days that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life, drawing strength from the love and support of those around me. While the road ahead may be challenging, I know that I am not alone, and that gives me hope for the journey ahead. As my husband's hurtful words pierced through the air, I remained composed, carefully choosing my response. "Just so you know, this conversation is being recorded. I'll keep it as evidence. Goodbye," I calmly stated. His shocked reaction was palpable as he stuttered, attempting to backtrack on his harsh remarks. "Wait, you recorded it? That's not fair." "I was joking, I'm sorry. I can't live without you. Let's start over. We truly loved each other, right? I promise I'll try harder from now on," he pleaded. But I had reached my limit. With the recorded conversation in hand, I turned to my lawyer, inquiring if it could be used as evidence. Shaking his head in disbelief, the lawyer remarked, "He truly is an incorrigible man." My parents, sharing my sentiments, made the firm decision to sever ties with him. His behavior filled them more with astonishment and disappointment than anger. As the divorce proceedings with my husband concluded smoothly, both the property distribution and child support agreements proceeded without a hitch. The turmoil began to subside. Thanks to Sarah's intervention, her husband, the president of my ex-husband's company, took action. Johnson was promptly disciplined and lost his job. Struggling to make ends meet with short-term part-time jobs, he returned to his parents' home, his reputation tarnished by the viral video. Rumors swirled about his parents, and according to reports from friends in the neighborhood, they seemed to live in perpetual unease. The societal judgment they faced, which exceeded my expectations, made me realize that this ostracization might be harder for them than any legal repercussions. With most matters settled and my health recovering, my parents, my baby, and I visited Sarah's home to express our gratitude. Both Sarah and her husband welcomed us warmly, doting on my baby. Our families grew close, forging unexpected bonds. In a twist of fate, Sarah's son, around my age, and I began to develop a relationship. A few years later, the idea that I might actually become a part of Sarah's family was something no one could have ever predicted. Life truly is full of surprises.